Welcome to Search Talk Live with search engine optimization and marketing experts Robert O'Haver and Caleb McKelvin, powered by the Robert Palmer family of companies.
How we doing, Rob?
I'm doing great. Happy Tuesday to everybody. It's sweltering hot here, still in Florida.
It is too hot, honestly.
Today we're going to be talking about search engine marketing, search engine optimization, and social media, if you like. If you want to call in, you can call at, hold on, let me mute my computer. Getting an echo here. So if you want to call in with your questions, you can call 855-722-0006. Again, that number is 855-722-0006. There's a lot going on this week in SEO, and I think we're going to cover quite a bit of it.
Yeah, Rob, there's some big news coming out this week as far as updates on algorithms. There's a lot to cover. I know we've already discussed some off the air, and now we're going to get to it on the air. But we got a lot to cover. If you do have questions, not only about the topics that we do have, please feel free to call in, send them to us. Mixer, get them to us. If you want to tweet them to us, please do. We'd love to cover your questions and provide those answers. I'm sure many have the same question that you do, so please feel free to call in, and we'll get to those as soon as we can.
Yeah, and, some big stuff happening. It kind of slipped through the cracks. Not a lot of people are talking about it, but I think it's a big deal. Yahoo is testing out search powered by Google. So, I mean, I think if those of you don't know, Yahoo originally was a directory. And what a directory is as opposed to a search engine is where it basically just indexes what is there, and it doesn't have any intuitive, stuff to it. So it's going to, it just says, okay, here's a site, index it, that's it.
Yeah.
As opposed to a search engine where Google, they have algorithms and all that other stuff. So with Yahoo being powered by Google, I mean, I think that's a huge deal.
Yeah. Well, I think you hit the nail on the head yesterday when we were talking about this. If you can't beat them, join them. And that seems to be what Yahoo is doing. They were kind of falling to the back of the pack. If you want to say that, they, not many people, they're really not in the conversation as much anymore as far as any type of SEO, search engines, anything like that. But, they're trying to up the ante and getting powered by Google search results. And I don't know if it's really going to benefit them in any way, but it's definitely a step in the right direction for them.
Yeah, I think they're just trying to survive, honestly. I mean, their paid advertising is powered by Microsoft, and now Google is going to be powering their search. I mean, what are they going to do at that point? As far as, I'm sure they get some kind of rev share with the advertising, but
they do. But they seem to be hanging on by a thread, and many are wondering on how long that's actually going to last, and many are predicting it's not going to be too long. And I hate to side with that, but that might be the truth. I guess we'll have to wait and see how this pans out for them. But, that's definitely some big news as far as the digital world goes, is that Yahoo, it will be powered by Google search.
Well, we don't know for sure yet. They're testing right now. But,
yeah.
The big part of it, Google has about 60% of the market now. That's going to give them probably another 15 to 20% of the market. So it's, you're talking 80% of the market. That's huge.
That's massive. Talk about a monopoly. They might be the epitome because they control it.
Yeah. And not that most SEOs out there do this, but they always optimize for Google. So, I guess it's just going to make our jobs a little easier.
Yeah. Yeah, very true. We have that. I know there was another one we wanted to get to as far as news coming out, and that was the Panda update that will be happening. Well, many think will be happening this Friday. Is that right, Rob?
Possibly. I'm starting to think it's going to be the following week because they're having some technical issues. The thing is Panda is making it's a huge core update. It's not like a refresh or anything. Yeah. There's a lot of stuff being added to improve the search results.
Yeah.
So
I think Panda's not your typical algorithm. I think a lot goes into the updates. It's not according to Google's Gary Lives, I believe.
Yeah, there's still a lot missing in Panda. I think they're doing a lot better job than they were doing, but I'm still seeing websites that are just spam crazy, and
Yeah, I agree. And, it's not an algorithmic change. It's kind of a data update. It's not like an overhaul or anything. I think the update is necessary. Like we said, we've seen some crazy results as far as, and,
at least on the local level.
Yeah, at least on the local level. And if if you're not really, I know we've touched on the radio show, if you haven't heard or you're not unsure what Panda is, it's basically Google's algorithm to filter out poor content, that are actually ending up in search results. Like we said before, they're all about providing the best possible product to their consumer, which is the user, whoever's searching, and they're trying to filter out that poor quality content because they're trying to provide the best possible data, best possible sites, best possible landing page, best possible everything, the user experience. Yeah. And many have found that there was a short window where there was actually some pretty poor websites that were ranking above high quality authoritative websites, and this is kind of Google's response to that, and I think the update is definitely necessary.
And there's also, a lot of the community in the SEO world and just webmasters alone, they give a lot of feedback in the Google forums.
Yeah,
where Google actually goes in and they'll take, they listen and look at what you're saying, and they go back and they tweak those things to make them better, obviously.
Yep.
So, and it's going to be a continuous update. And the good thing is, one thing I'm seeing, and even though Panda hasn't done an update probably in 9 months, not an update, but they've done refreshes, but they haven't done core,
a full update.
Yeah, in about 9 months. So what I've seen is, people that are getting penalties on Panda, which most people get penalties on Penguin more than they do Panda, but
yeah,
it's more of your rankings drop when you have a poor site.
Yeah.
But the main thing I'm seeing though is, unless obviously extreme where your site is all spammy and obviously written for search engines, but what I'm seeing now is people are recovering a lot faster. So if a site is penalized, has a manual penalty, they're starting to recover a lot faster. We had some really big sites in the last month that, they were only penalized for a week.
Yeah.
Which good for them for getting on top of it and fixing those things. But
and the good thing with Panda is it is something that you can actually, getting out of it might not be the most difficult thing, but it's important that you pay attention to what your site's telling you and really analyze your site and understand what poor quality of content is, what poor quality content is, and how you can change that for your website. And that's really crucial. And as far as the update goes, you really need to pay attention to it. Any of these algorithms, they have updates. You need to pay attention to when they're coming up, what it's gonna consist of, and what you need to do for your website to make sure A, you can get out of a penalty, or B, avoid any type of manual penalty that might be coming your way.
Right, and it's you have to. We covered this in our previous show. We went over algorithms.
Yeah.
And went into pretty good detail. But I think, for the listeners that didn't hear that show, I think maybe we should go over that a little bit. What do you think?
Yeah, definitely. You always need to cover these algorithms because, they're a big part of how Google basically mandates their search results and provides that user experience. Once again, please call in with your questions if you want to. 855-722-0006. That's 855-722-0006. If you have a question on topic, off topic, either one, please feel free to call in. We'd love to hear your questions and give you the best answer possible that we can, or find the answer for you. So if you have those questions, please call in, 855-722-0006.
Yeah, you can also go on Twitter and do #DigitalDuo, and I'll answer those questions you have maybe on Twitter if you have any.
We love questions. Yeah.
So basically what you want to cover when you're talking about Panda, you keep hearing all this catchphrase, key quality content, but I think we should dive a little into that and maybe explain, because a lot of people are kind of like, what is quality content? So I think we should really talk about that so that people understand.
Yeah, definitely. Well, that's something that's really up in the air on what quality content is. most people think it's just, you slap up a blog post about what's happening in the latest trend or whatever, and that's not necessarily it. Quality content really takes some blood, sweat, and tears, but the payoffs are huge. So
it's not that bad. Come on.
Well, I mean, it's not. I don't want to make it sound morbid or anything, but for the best results possible, you need to really put some effort into not only the research, but putting that content together, getting feedback on that content. I always say, don't ever in anything just set it and forget it. It's something that you need to continually analyze to see, and this is where analytics play a big part in it, is what's the bounce rate, who's coming to your site, how are they getting there, and what's going on when they are on your site, what are people doing. And I think that type of feedback is going to give you huge insight on, do you have quality content or do you have content that nobody cares about?
Yeah, I would say the basic most important thing, a rule of thumb is, and I've said this a million times, but does that page offer a value? Does it answer a question? Does it solve a problem? And it's got to be detailed. I mean, you can't, not super detailed, not 100, not a whole full page, but it has to be written in a way that it makes the reader interested,
Yeah.
Give product services and values and any offers you may have.
Right.
Don't have a page that's just a bunch of white space. I mean, you can do that to an extent because, I mean, it does help with usability, but then you don't want a page that's going to just go, forever scrolling.
Yeah. I mean, here's how I like to think about it. However they got there, whatever channel it may be, whatever they clicked on, however you entice them to come to your site, come to that particular page, are you promising what you put in how you got them to get there? So are you promising, are you fulfilling that promise of, hey, here's what I'm offering, and when do they go there, are they actually receiving what you offered? And if they're not, and if it's really thin, or if it's just, because I'm sure you've done it before too, Rob, you click on something, you go to it, and you're like, okay, I'm expecting to see this, and then it's just really bad. Yeah. It's either something else or the content is so crappy. It's kind of like, why did you do this? Why did you waste so many seconds of my life that I could never get back? And that's, and that's not something that you want to do. That, if you're going to promise somebody something and get them to click on or visit your page or visit this specific section of your website or visit your own page, whatever it may be, are you promising what you put in front of them? Are those results going to be what they expect? Right.
And the major part, too, is making sure it is extremely laser focused.
Yes.
Almost said repetitive, but relevant to what you're offering. Don't talk about widgets and then talk about shoes on the same page.
No. You want to make it as relative. And that all goes back to the value and the quality. If it's relative to what you are offering, what you're promising, then you shouldn't have any issues. So, I mean, it's all about the best practices. You follow those best practices. You say you're offering this, and then they go to that page, and they're actually getting some value out of it. It's actually worth their time. Then you'll have no issues whatsoever.
Yeah, and Caleb, I think you brought up a really good point too. Is what you were saying a couple of shows ago that damn, I'm on my blank again. But what is it you were saying? You were talking about how.
I say a lot of good things, so I'm just waiting.
All right, well, I'll come back to it.
Okay.
I lost my train of thought. I was reading a text or a message, but
you're good.
The other thing too is the overall usability of the site. Do you want to have a good navigation where people don't get lost? Make sure that wherever they click, it's in as minimal clicks as possible.
Yeah.
Whether it be to purchase a product or read an article or whatever they're looking for.
Right.
And obviously if it's a e-commerce site, you really have to pay attention to the way you categorize your products and services, the social aspects. That doesn't really have a lot to do with Panda, but
right.
Those are things you need to have.
It's all about the clarity. And,
right.
I think I did mention this a few shows ago. One thing I hate when I get on a website is if I have to fight your site to find what I want, then there's a big issue. And I think a lot of sites are like that, to where it might look good to them, and they think, well, you might think, hey, I know where this is, I know where that is. People are going to find this easily. And then somebody else will get on there and they can't find exactly what they want, or they got to fight your site or go through all these tabs and enter pages and everything like that.
Yeah.
And the user experience, I mean, you're killing it. You're absolutely killing it. You know, we want something, it's not, and some people think you have to dumb it down. You don't have to dumb it down, but it needs to be clear to somebody who's going to your site how they can get to what they want as easily and quickly as possible.
Right.
And, you know, that's just all about, hey, it's not necessarily we want it now or you have to make it, you know, dumb it down whatsoever, but that's just all about the user experience.
And to keep in mind, also, when people read content, unless you're maybe an article they're interested in, most of the time people, they scan a page.
Absolutely.
And they look for that information. So you have to keep that in mind too. So, you know, you don't want to embellish too much. You want to make sure that, you know, you're to the point. And, you know, what are the features and benefits, and talk a little about the product and how it serves its purpose or service.
Yeah.
And you know, because Google's all about answering questions and solving problems. So, you know, whether it be a product or service, like I said, you have to keep that in mind. Does your product or service or blog post answer a question?
Yeah. And I think when we get back to the whole blog post and the quality content, it doesn't necessarily have to be a written blog post. There are many other ways that you can provide quality content. I think you definitely hit the nail on the head as far as you write a blog post. People don't want to read the entire thing. It's just not going to happen. They are going to read bullet points. They're going to read headlines. They're going to read that kind of thing. And if something catches their eye, they'll dive into it a little bit.
Exactly.
I think we've touched on that a little bit too, where, you know, if you offer 7 steps, or you offer this or you offer that, whatever it may be, and you include headlines and bullet points in there, those are going to catch people's eye. And certain ones they might dive a little more into. But, you know, it's very rare that somebody's going to read an entire 1,000-word blog post.
Right.
So, you know, you have to get a little creative with it. And I actually read a pretty awesome article on SEM Rush. I think it was yesterday morning or this morning on, you know, different ways you can include. And I think you do an awesome job of this, Rob, as far as different type of content you can use that will actually interest people. That's actually quality content, as far as going into creating your own webinars, putting videos on your site, using those because they're less time consuming and people actually can interact with that. Do podcasts, get creative with your content, and I think that'll kind of complement your quality content, and you'll offer a different type of a well-rounded user experience instead of just blog post after blog post after blog post.
Right, and those things also add credibility to you.
Absolutely.
As a, you know, if a user comes on your site and sees you talking about a how-to video on how to, you know, whatever, you know, create whatever.
Yeah, I
it
mean,
could be anything.
Yeah, and that's something I think even in a small market, on a local base or on a national, it's something that companies need to be doing on their site. Yeah. Because, you know, you can write all this stuff about, you know, hey, we do this, we do that, here's what we offer, but an interactive video, it can even be a 30-second one on, hey, here's 7 steps to do this, or are you doing this? Here's what you can be doing. You're imprinting yourself on people's minds that, hey, this person, they do this, they know what they're talking about. They're creating videos, they're putting those videos online. People are watching them. I should be watching them too.
You know, that stuff, putting on your website is really, and I would have to say even social media links and stuff like that are all signals for Panda to show that, you know, you are social, you are, you know, credible a person, or you offer a credible product or service. And then also, why I keep dragging on, I want to give the number out here.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
855-722-0006. 855-722-0006. Call in. Questions on topic, off topic, anything SEO, digital marketing, social media. Call in, and we would love to discuss it with you.
Yeah, we're on every Tuesday from 3:30 to 4:30, and we will take your questions. It's a toll-free number, and just in case you didn't know, so it doesn't cost you to make the call.
Yeah.
But
you can call on in.
But going back to Panda, I would say we covered pretty much everything on that. It's almost like when you're setting up, if you look at your brick and mortar store, it's a good analogy.
Mm-hmm.
When you walk into a store, what do you see? It's all set up and it should be merchandised in a way that it gets your attention. It's basically the same thing, but in a digital world.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I do have a question for you, Rob. You do have a little more experience with this than I do, as far as recovering from if someone may have been hit by Panda. What is something they can do to get out of that penalty? How can they? What's the first steps they can take to basically get back on the straight path, if you want to say?
Well, usually when someone is hit by Panda, unless it's extreme, they don't get a manual penalty. What will happen, and I'll go back to the penalties as well, but what usually happens is your site just doesn't rank. Your site's going to be harder to rank. And if you don't have everything in place, the signals, your title tags, your H1 tags, your content, and if it's not on spot on, or if it's spammy, it's going to come. You're not going to rank. Your page is not going to be interesting to people.
Yeah.
And you're trying to do something. Stop trying so hard, basically.
Yeah.
Stop trying to rank so hard, and you will.
Yeah, I think you said you were discussing that the other day. Don't try to. The more you try to gear your site towards search engines, the worse you're going to rank, and the worse off you're going to be.
Yeah, I mean, it's anytime you try to be misleading. Google has really gotten smart on this stuff. So it's you don't want to try and trick them. You want to provide them with what the algorithm wants.
Yep.
Good quality content, relevant, just good navigation, user experience, period. So, I mean, like if you're, I go back to article sites because we have a couple of those. So, like if you have an article site, maybe lead people into other pages with maybe relevant posts and stuff like that, or, keep them on your site. And that's one thing I never really mentioned. I see a lot of people make the mistake is they'll link off of their site to other sites for references. I mean, you can do that. Obviously, you want to follow those tags, but if you're a store, you don't want to say, "Hey, go down to Walmart." Basically.
Yeah. No, I mean, if you if you're, especially for an article site, if you're using things for as far as statistics go, right, or something that's actually relevant to what you're talking about, and it's something that can really boost your content, then link out to it. That's something that's not bad. It'll actually help your content or whatever. But you
want to make sure it opens in another window.
Yeah, you want to make sure that you open in a new tab. You never want to take anybody off your website. You're basically shooting yourself in the foot. You're basically holding a gun to your foot and just they're like, okay, well, you're sending me here, so I guess I shouldn't listen to you anymore. If you are going to put link out from your website, always put it in another tab that it's going to open up another tab. You'll be amazed at how much of a difference that's going to make, because if they leave your site, if you link out to your site from your site and it goes off your page completely, they may never come back. So, make sure that you're opening that new tab.
Yeah, another thing, and I it hasn't been proven yet, but I think a good thing to have on a product or service site is a chat.
Definitely.
Because, when you walk into a store, somebody always greets you, or they'll come to see if you need help.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be, some of them are really annoying where they'll just keep going and going and going and going. But, the ones that you get on their site and they're like, hey, how are you? If you have any questions, feel free to talk to us.
Right, real passive.
Yeah, that's something that's I actually interact with that more than I do the people that are like, it keeps popping up and popping up and popping up and popping up. When I go to a car salesman or I go to a furniture store or anything like that, and somebody walks up to me and says, hey, how you doing? My name's so-and-so. I'll be right over here. If you have any questions, go ahead. Feel free to look around and stuff like that. Right. I'm more likely to go over to them if I do have a question than somebody that comes and hounds me and kind of follows me around.
Right.
So
that's huge credibility, too. It shows that, hey, I care about my customers,
right,
and we want to make sure that you find what you're looking for.
Right. Definitely.
Especially if you're a high-ticket item. If you're selling cars or something online, obviously you need that stuff.
Yeah.
Because they're not going to buy a car, just go to a website and buy a car.
Yeah.
You want to have interaction with those people.
Yeah. So, but anyways, if you have been hit by Panda,
oh yeah,
really look at your analytics, see what's going on with that, perform a crawl analysis, get all that data that you can, and I think you'll get a really good insight on which pages are causing the issue, what type of content is causing the issue, and make the changes from there. But, you need to make sure that you're paying attention to your website. Like I said, it's a living thing, and you have to take care of it. I don't know. I never had one, but it was big when I was younger. Chia pets. You had those little chia pets, and you had to take care of them every day. That was something. That's basically your website is basically a chia pet. You got to take care of it every day, or it's going to die and never come back. So, take care of your chia pet, and really, really show it some tender loving care. And you gotta pay attention to what your website, what the analytics are telling you.
And what builds all of this? I mean, you really want to do your research. Look at your competitors. Look at how their writing style. How they're doing it.
Absolutely.
Especially if they're ranking in the top 10 of Google.
Yeah.
And don't copy their content, but just, look at it and get a really good feel and idea of what they're doing and find out what keywords they rank for.
Right.
Because then that can give you a good stepping stone to where you should go.
Yeah. And that's something, as far as the internet goes, looking at your competitors and not necessarily, like you said, copying their stuff. But it's what everybody does, especially the ones that are getting ahead of the game. They're paying attention to what their competitors are doing, and that's something you should definitely be doing in all facets, whether it's on-page optimization, off-page, link building, and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
Pay attention to what your competitors are doing, and it's going to give you a type of outline on, like, okay, they're doing this, and I'm doing this, which is completely different. It's obviously what they're doing is right. What I'm doing is really not getting the results that I need. How can I adapt what I'm doing right now to kind of get on the straight and narrow?
Yeah, and you want to, look at the big picture. What is their navigation like? Don't just look at content, but look at navigation, look at the structure of their website. All those things are important. And the load time of your website, how fast it loads, that's a huge, huge thing. And I've seen it time and time again where sites speed up their website and they jump in ranks.
Yeah, definitely.
And then if you're an e-commerce site, you want to make sure that your site is always secure. Having a secure website, regardless if you're a e-commerce or what, it is a ranking signal. I mean, it'll give you a boost. Not a huge one, but it'll help.
And anything helps.
Yeah, and that, if anything, Google looks at that and you're trying to protect your customers or clients.
Yeah, definitely.
A couple things I wanted to touch on. I think we covered that pretty well. I just have some small things, like if you have. Oh, wait, let's back up. I didn't go into what do you do if you have a penalty?
Oh yeah,
a manual penalty. If you have a manual penalty, you've really screwed up.
You are in the principal's office about to get a spanking.
And I honestly, unless you hired an outside company, you have to know what you did wrong.
Yeah.
But you'd be surprised. There's a lot of people out there that have hired people and just they're clueless to the whole thing. They just said, "Hey, fix this and do it." And that's usually a bad thing.
Yeah.
You want to, if you're hit by Panda, it's either your content's spammy, or you don't have a lot of content on your site, or it's just, it's keyword here, keyword there, that type of stuff. And so you just got to fix that stuff and make it quality.
I mean, yeah, it's the good thing is it's not a high-tech fix necessarily. It's just going back and putting in some effort and really, up in the ante on your content and the quality of it. So, study those analytics, really see what might be causing the issue, and then you can fix it from there. So,
right. What else did you want to cover?
Well, actually, I think you just made a good segue as far as those who have hired an SEO company and find themselves in a manual penalty, which I think is a good segue into what I'd like to talk about next, and as far as what people really need to look for if you are wanting to hire an SEO company. And I think this is something that's really important and needs to be touched on, because there's so many SEO freelancers, SEO companies that are promising you something that's you're going to catch yourself in a manual penalty or in a big issue. So I think discussing what you need to look for when you're wanting to hire an SEO company what are the red flags of a bad SEO company, and how you can actually trust or narrow it down, or how you should talk to somebody about SEO services, I think is something that we definitely need to cover. Yeah.
Now there's a couple things you need to watch out for. There's sites that and I'm going to name the name. I'm probably going to catch hell later, but there's sites like topseos.com where they have a top 10 listing of their SEOs, and everybody that I see that is on that list are bragging like it's the greatest thing in the world. But when it comes to reality, those sites are paying to be in those spots.
Yes.
Those top 10 SEOs are saying, okay, we'll put you on this list if you pay me. It's just bull.
Yeah. We'll leave you on for a year for the 2015, and then they redo it again for the next year. Okay, who's going to pay us this time? So we can put you out there, and you can be in spot number 3 for the top SEO company for 2015.
Right, and that goes for pay-per-click and everything else.
Right.
They have a list for everything.
Right. Well, I really think there are some red flags that you can notice right off the bat. And one of the big things that I think people really need to ask an SEO company, they might be offering great prices. They might be offering this. They might be offering that. You might see a lot of reviews online, whether they're real or not. But I really think one of the first things you might need to ask an SEO company is, how do they measure SEO success, and how are they going to communicate with that to you? And I think you can get a lot right off the bat in how are they going to actually measure SEO success. And you might see a lot that said, well, we're going to have you on page 1 in 2 months, or we're going to submit you to so many search engines, or we're going to submit you to this, or we're going to build you 1,000 links, or this or whatever. But how are they actually going to measure that SEO success? And that type of feedback, I think, will be a good launching point.
Yeah, and the other thing to watch out for, too, is, and I get them myself, which is, I think, pretty funny, but I get an email probably 10 times a week saying, I'm not on the top page of Google, and would you like to hire us for SEO services?
Yeah, stay away from those.
Those are general emails that are put out, and they say the same thing to everybody. Yeah. So when you see it, don't panic, because, it's just a general email.
Yeah.
And, you get ones that say, the other ones you have to watch out for. You'll see in the email, they'll say, we'll give you 1,000 articles, and we'll put you in 5 .org websites or .gov sites or whatever.
Right.
It's all bull crap.
It is.
I have to watch my language.
Yeah. No, you're right. It definitely is.
That's old school techniques, really. The thing you have to look for when you find somebody, what is their value offered? First off, you're going to get people that tell you, oh, yeah, we guarantee we're going to put you on the first page of Google.
I hate that word in SEO, guarantee. There is absolutely no guarantee whatsoever.
That's when you really need to run.
Yeah.
Because no one can guarantee that. And I've been in the industry over 13 years, and I never promise a client.
No.
But what I do is I set expectations with my clients and make sure that they know, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take your site, and I'm going to do the absolute best practices to make this thing rank.
Yes, absolutely. I think a lot of relationships, as far as between an SEO company and a client, I think they are derailed when expectations are not managed on the front end.
Absolutely.
I think that's where a lot, if you can establish a relationship between SEO and client of, hey, okay, here's what the analytics are telling us right now. Here's where you're ranking for these certain situations right now. Here's what your on-page looks like. Here's are the issues. And then set those goals from there and manage those expectations right off the bat. And you, as the client, have to understand that there's no guarantee whatsoever, that, nothing can be promised, that honestly, there's no quick fix. It is a long-term process. There might be victories along the way, but it's a long-term process, and you have to be willing to put in that time to understand that, it's going to take a little bit of time and there's no quick fix. But when you're looking for that SEO company, making sure that they have that long-term understanding, that they're not offering you any quick fix whatsoever, and that they're communicating with you those expectations, those benchmarks, how they're going to achieve or how they're going to measure the SEO success, how they're going to report it to you and communicate those to you, I think is the main things that you need to be looking for.
Yeah, and not all SEO companies will do this, but you can ask for references. You can get, obviously they're not going to give you the bad ones, but you can say, can I see some sites that you've worked with or something like that?
Yeah. I think SEO companies should offer that. I mean, you need something tangible that people can see and be like, you don't necessarily even have to offer your top ones. You can offer things that, okay, here's where this site was, here's what they were doing, here's what we were able to do with it, here's the success we had with it. Even if they're not on page one, if you have certain stories or certain instances, I think those can be beneficial for you.
Yeah, and a huge red flag too. Not only do you want to make sure that before they start the work, and pay attention to this because it's really important. We talked about setting expectations, but what you need to know up front, what are you going to get to show that that person's doing the work?
Yeah.
So you want to you want to make sure when you're about to engage with them, they should be asking you for what they're wanting to rank for, obviously, or what they're, they consider to be, because obviously there's a lot of research that goes into our work once we start. It's keyword research, competitive analysis, analytics, all that stuff goes into it. So there's a lot of questions that person should be asking you up front. You shouldn't be giving them a check and never hear from them again.
Nope.
They should say, okay, what is your goal here? What do you want the customer to do? Because SEO is not just about ranking you on the first page of Google. It's making sure everything is in place on your site, whether it be user experience, content, all that stuff has to be fixed before you can rank anyway.
Yep.
If they're not asking you for those things or key things about your site, there's an issue.
Absolutely.
That to me, that is a number one flag, because if it's communication with your client, and I hope there's some agencies out there, but communication with your client that are listening, by the way, but communicating with your client is key. If you go a month without hearing from your SEO, there's an issue, and they should be sending you reports monthly.
Yep.
And it should detail what they've done so far to the site, proof of what they've done, if they could give that. A lot of details. I mean, if they built links, show me the links. Prove it,
Yeah.
If they...
And on link building, ask them what type of links they're actually going to go after. Because they can build you, they can say, hey, I'm going to build you 50 links this month, but it could be just absolute crap, honestly. You know, and there's really, as far as link building goes, there's an easy way of getting quick links that are not really high quality, and there's the tough way, which, it might be, you might only get a few links for the month, but they're really high quality and have more benefit on the back end. So, you might, links are still important. It's all about how you do them, what type of links they're getting. But, you might be like, okay, well, this company says they're going to give me 100 links a month. That might all sound great, but if you don't know where those links are coming from, how they're getting them, and who's giving them to them, then you could run into a huge issue. Right.
And again, back to communication part, you want to make sure before you pay them that they give you this information, and also that they ask for this information, and also that they give you a strategy. Now, you might have to pay for an analysis, discovery of the site and what needs to be done, but if they don't give you a strategy in the beginning, they just, you let them loose and then do whatever, then you don't have a roadmap.
No.
And SEO, even though it's not guaranteed, if all the things are done white hat and best practices, you're going to see some results.
Yeah.
Whether large or small, but you will see results. There's, but again, they don't guarantee that stuff.
Yeah. If you got questions, call in 855-722-0006. Questions, 855-722-0006, whether it's about what you need to look for in an SEO company or anything else that you might have in the digital world. Please call in with your questions, and we'd love to talk about them. Yeah, I think you really touched on a big thing as far as if they're able to, and if you really ask for an analytics or ask for certain things and they're not able to communicate that with you, or they don't want to provide that to you, then you definitely need to turn the other way.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think one thing that I've seen is certain SEO companies kind of have a one-size-fits-all kind of model,
right,
where they're going to, okay, well, here's what we offer. We offer it to everybody. It works for some, doesn't work for others. If it doesn't work for you, sorry, thanks for the checks. We'll see you later. And honestly, that's how some of them offer that. And the thing is, every situation is different. It's like a fingerprint. Every website is different on what they need, how they need it, what their issues are, what their strengths are. And you really need an SEO company to be able to take your site and really understand those things, mold something that's going to benefit your site to achieve those results, to achieve those conversions, to achieve that traffic, to help in rankings, social signals, and all those kind of things, to be able to understand your certain situation, be able to understand where they need to move on to achieve that success, and be able to communicate that with you.
Yeah, you can usually tell when an SEO has passion. Kind of like me and Caleb. We spend most of our time on the radio,
yep,
or in seminars and all that stuff, and we keep our ears to the tracks on updates and everything else. You have to in this industry.
You do. Well, I mean, one thing that I think we're both passionate about is those out there who are scamming people.
Right.
I mean, that's something that, we kind of like, are you kidding me? How can you do this to people just for a quick buck? I mean, it's something that could really hurt somebody's website for a long time, and you're just kind of throw them under the bus and you move on to the next one. And, we put so much work and effort into trying to help people to do things right, to help people achieve results, to all that kind of stuff. And we put the hard work into it, and we really try to adapt everything and do best practices, and really help people. And then you got this whole other side, and there's a lot of SEO people out there trying to do that, and a lot of SEO companies that are actually trying to do that. The bad part about it is people are finding these other SEO companies that don't care, are trying to make a quick buck, and a lot of people are falling into that trap.
Yep.
So actually, I did share, I saw a video today. I was doing a little research for the show. I found a pretty cool video today. I shared it on my Twitter, at CJ_MCE. You need to check it out. That really says the certain terms that SEO companies that are going to say that are automatic red flags. And it was
nice.
It was actually kind of spot on. And it was all about what we've talked about, Robert, about how if they say guarantee, if they promise, if they said they're going to build so many links for you, if they say they even brought up a situation where a SEO company promised that they were going to submit you to 1,000 search engines. What 1,000 search engines are you talking about? I mean, whoa.
And who needs to submit them?
And who needs to, that doesn't even make sense. And that's just crazy. But there's actually SEO websites out there promising that, and people are falling into that trap, and they're falling into they'll submit, they'll get you 2,000 backlinks a month. People are falling into that trap. And I think that's one of our goals with this podcast, is to help people not fall into that trap.
The podcast, the seminars, everything.
Yeah, everything.
But, another thing that you really need to watch out for or take advice on, if you don't listen to anything else we just said, don't try to cut corners. Don't try to, you can go overseas if you like. There's plenty of great SEOs overseas.
Yeah, definitely.
But a couple things you need to think about. If you take your e-commerce site or whatever overseas, remember, if they screw up your site or if they get you penalized, you have no recourse. You have no legal recourse.
Nope.
You are just out of money.
You're in a hole.
Yeah. As opposed to, getting a good professional, someone that knows what they're doing, and hiring them. It's an investment. It doesn't happen. Rankings doesn't happen overnight, but with a good SEO that knows that not just ranking is important, but other things like the site itself are the people you want to look for. Because worst case, when it's done and over with, your site is going to be amazing.
Yep.
And then, rankings can take anywhere from 3 to 6 months, even a year, depending on what terms you're trying to rank for. It could even take longer. There's some terms out there that are just heavily, taken over by the markets.
Yeah.
So, you've got to be creative there. But it all starts with, your keyword research and that stuff.
Yeah. I mean, don't get discouraged. I think a lot of people get discouraged and are like, well, I got to have this now. If I'm going to compete, if I'm going to produce anything, if I'm going to achieve results, I got to have somebody that's going to do it right now. And that's just not the case. It's not going to work. So that's where I think the SEO company and the client, the best way to start things out is to understand the expectations. And I'll preach that to both sides as much as I possibly can, is you need to be able to communicate where that site stands, where that client stands, and
good strategy.
Yeah, and communicate with them, and then how you're going to implement and execute a strategy. And on the other hand, the client has to know that it's not going to happen overnight. It's just not going to happen. It's an ongoing process. And if you really want to achieve the results, you got to invest the time and honestly the money to be able to reach the results that you want to get to.
Yeah, and the sad thing, too, is a lot of SEOs fall into this, is if you don't communicate with your client 3 months down the road when they keep stroking you a check, they're going to fire you because you're not communicating.
Yeah.
You're not showing them any kind of results whatsoever.
And you might be doing the work, too.
Yeah, yeah. So if you keep that communication open with the client, make sure that, like Caleb said, expectations up front. You give them reporting every month. Give them detail of what you've done to the site and what's to be expected. You do it in phases. We can, say, hey, the first thing is going to be your site. We're going to get it up to par, make it convert better. Because that's part of SEO too. Making a site convert higher, making a site load faster, making a site, quality content for a site, links, navigation. All of that is a factor. It's not just about ranking.
Right.
But it does start with the website.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's sad because there's a lot of people who, started a little SEO site because they looked at other old practices or whatever it may be and been like, okay, hey, I can do this. I can get somebody to pay me to do so many links and, get them up, plaster keywords everywhere and everything like that. And I'll get them to pay me so much money a month. And there's so many sites out there like that. It's so important that you understand these red flags, notice them, and that gives you a guideline to make the best decision possible.
Correct. And the number to call in is 855-722-0006. Again, that's 855-722-0006. That's every Tuesday from 3:30 to 4:30. And you can call now. We've got about 10 minutes left, 10, 12 minutes, something like that, left in the show. So you have plenty of time to call in with your questions. If we don't know the answers, we will get them for you and get back to you. But most of the time we have the answers, or at least advice and a way to point you.
Yeah, we'll point you in the right direction for sure. So,
what do you want to talk about next?
And so that's what to look for in an SEO company. I know we had discussed that. We'd like to talk a little bit about kind of everything today. I think one of the things I'd like to talk about, and I was discussing with this yesterday, if you do have a content site, you do need to check out alltop.com. I think that's a really cool site. It's kind of gets your blog, your content noticed within your industry. I have seen some traffic from that site. It's pretty cool. It's really easy. They do check for quality content. They do check your website. They don't just put anything up there. So that's one of your signals as far as submitting to a quality directory. But alltop.com is if you do have a content site, if you do have a blog, check it out. See if they have a industry for you, kind of a niche for you. If you do, check everything out. One thing I have used it for as an awesome gaining link building opportunities. So if you go on there, you find other quality content sites. It's definitely a communication starter. You go on there, you check it out, learn things in your own industry. It's got everything you need to know. You can stay on top of what's happening, the latest news in your industry. Like we said, you need to do a competitor analysis. This is the perfect opportunity to find. You might know your biggest competitors, or you might know what you think might be your biggest competitors, but you go on this site, you check out what other people are putting on there. You might find that there might be somebody else local to you that you didn't know about. There might be other people that are actually your bigger competitors that are doing things that you didn't even know about. So it's awesome for competitor analysis. It's awesome for content marketing. It's awesome for link building opportunities. And it's also awesome to get more eyes on your content, more eyes on your site. So, check out alltop.com. And, if you have any feedback on it, if you have any, I've been using it, to try to check it out. And I've been doing some analytics on it to see if it's actually beneficial, if it's spammy, which so far I've seen it is not. So if you do have any feedback on it, if you want to check it out and try it yourself and give us some feedback on it, tell us what you think. We'd love to hear that. You can call in or you can shoot us up on, hit us up on Twitter, whatever it may be. But we'd love to hear your feedback on that as well.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up because that's one I didn't know about. So
yeah, I mean, it's cool. I'm always looking for more content opportunities because you run out so quick. I sit there and stared at the computer and be like, okay, we've talked about that, talked about that, read that. Nobody cares about that, so on and so forth. And then this is kind of like an awesome kind of refresher course on different opportunities that you can find.
Yeah. Okay. One thing I wanted to bring up too is, if you've been hit by Penguin, which is a link building or it looks for links with spammy links and stuff to your site. But if you've been hit with a penalty, one thing you can do, there is services out there that do link removal services. There's quite a few that are good sites and they offer a good service because me personally, I don't like spending the time getting those things removed. Luckily, I haven't had to do that much because I try to stick with quality. But
yeah,
on occasion, there's been times. But if you have a site where you went out and bought links and you've got hundreds or thousands of links to your site that you need to be removed,
please get those removed.
Yeah, you can do the disavow file, but you can also go to these link removal services, which I think is fantastic.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you know that you've bought these links, I think and you're like, okay, well, you might have just started your site out or you might have, paid an SEO company. You might have fallen into the trap of a bad SEO company and found out they were doing really bad links for you. And, you fell into a penalty or you were just monitoring your site like you were supposed to and found all these bad links. Then I think getting those removed is definitely the best step.
Great. We have about 8 minutes, 7 minutes?
Okay. 855-722-0006. That's 855-722-0006. Any questions about what we talked about today, or if you have a new topic that you'd like to bring up and we have not touched on, please call in. We would love to discuss that with you and for all the other SEO enthusiasts out there.
Yeah, and if you're a professional or expert in SEO and you've got some techniques you're finding that are just absolutely awesome and you want to share them with us, that it might be valuable for other people to hear.
Yeah,
please call in. I mean, we're not know-it-alls, and like I said, 13 years in the business, and I'm still learning SEO. It's ever changing.
Well, that's the thing about SEO, man, is that you never really have a full knowledge of what's going on. There's always something new to learn. It's a continuing educational experience.
Right.
And that's one thing that really drew me to the industry. I didn't start out in marketing and anything like that. I kind of got my foot in the door and started kind of on the lower level. And I was like, hey, this thing's awesome because there's never a boring day. There's always something to do. There's always something to fix. There's always something to go out and be like, hey, I need to try this. Somebody else is doing it or nobody's doing it. Let's try it. Let's see what results we get back from it. It's so analytical. It's so hands-on.
It's a big puzzle.
It's a big puzzle, and honestly, I felt like throwing my computer out the window a few times. I'm not going to lie, and felt like giving up. But, once you hit that big breakthrough or once you see those results, man, it's like a golf shot. You might play golf bad all day. You might hit them, duff it into the water. You might shank it and all that kind of stuff. But you hit that beautiful drive off the tee. You're like, yep, I love golf. And that's kind of what SEO feels like someday. Huh?
What's a duff it?
Man, you kind of,
tell me later.
You kind of top it and it kind of bounces and all that.
Okay.
Anybody out there who play golf know what I'm talking about. And you want to do the putter throw from Happy Gilmore and just kind of chunk it. But, and then you hit that beautiful drive or that beautiful 9-iron that you land 3 feet from the hole. And you feel really good about it. So that's kind of what SEO sometimes feels like, but that's the awesome experience.
Yeah, as a business owner, it can be very frustrating, especially if you're trying to do DIY SEO and learn all this stuff that's out there. And you got to really filter out who you listen to and who you don't, and who's the best for the, advice. But I can give you some names right now, and you can follow these people on Twitter. You can follow their websites. They're fantastic people, and I'm going to give you a couple names that, to me, have inspired me to keep going because, with Google's all these algorithms, it's made SEO profession, really. It's not just anybody can go out and do it.
No.
It's become, an art, to be honest.
You got to know your stuff.
Yeah, and the people you can rely on are people like Barry Schwartz. He's basically an SEO journalist. He covers searchengineland.com, and you also have Rand Fishkin. Rand Fishkin is a philanthropist, and he owns Moz, or used to own. Well, he still owns it, but he's not the CEO anymore. Yeah. Those people, they've got their ear to the track. So there's other one like Danny Sullivan, and forgive me if I haven't mentioned your name. But there is a ton of them. But those three people right there, if you follow them on Twitter, they give great information.
They do.
And I've done a few interviews with all of these guys.
Hey, you're forgetting one, Robert.
Yeah.
Yourself, man.
Oh.
Check out the expert Robert O'Haver, man.
Thanks, man.
I'll definitely plug that one in if you want. So if you haven't checked out his Twitter, his YouTube channel, right? You got a YouTube channel and all that stuff, man. It's some awesome. And just like you said, those interviews that you do with those guys are very insightful, man. They are awesome. They give great information. They're very educational. If you're an expert, if you're just getting started, whatever it may be, definitely need to check those out.
Thanks, Caleb.
No problem, man.
But anyways, go to those people. Those are, you don't have to filter anything they say because all of those people have really close ties with Google. And I think we are covering, a lot of stuff here. So, I mean, they can amplify anything we say. Anything we say on the show is always going to be best practices.
Yeah.
Now, we can't guarantee if somebody calls in and it starts pitching some black hat thing. We can't guarantee those things. But, we try to do our best. We have, like tonight, we have a meetup group in Orlando, Florida, where, we're going over keyword research and how to do that stuff. But we spend a lot of our time doing this stuff. So we are deep into it. But remember, our show is every Tuesday from 3:30 to 4:30. The number to call if you have that handy? 855-722-0006. Like I said, if you're between now and next Tuesday, if you are, hey, I got a question about this, or maybe that we can talk about this, or maybe we can do that. Hey, they need to discuss this. This might be happening. We keep our ear to the ground and we try to stay on top of things as much as we can. Sometimes we miss things. You can call in 855-722-0006 next week and bring it to light for us, or hit us up on Twitter. Yep. It'd be like, hey, y'all should have talked about this. Or if you come up and you're like, oh, I had a question about that. Caleb, what's your Twitter thing?
At CJ_MCE. So, I love to post things on that, retweet, always following the guys that you had mentioned, Robert. I try to I do my research when I retweet something. I'm not just going to retweet anything just to retweet it. I want to make sure that I'm providing the best possible information that I can. So, yeah.
And my Twitter is at Robert O'Haver, no apostrophe, OHAV as in Victor, ER. And that's my Twitter. If you have questions there, you can also ask us I have a YouTube channel with the same name, Google Plus, everything. Yep. But that's the end of the show. Hope you tune in next week when we're talking about SEM, SEO.
We're going to cover a lot every week. So.
Maybe some pay-per-click or something. We don't know. But call in the show anytime. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next week.
See you next one.
Search Talk Live is a presentation of the Robert Palmer family of companies.